87.5 Nge FM in Kasese, 98.0 West Nile FM in Arua, Total Radio FM 90 in Karamoja, and 93.0 Voice of Mundbujo. Now you're covered in your local language. UBC Radios, inspiring Uganda.
At UBC Radio, all our radio network across the country is committed to inform, entertain, educate, and guide for national transformation.
Our own radio, UBC, should set its own example. Leka bano abatafa ku bantu baffe bagumaza ndowooza Muganda kitwa kugumaza to divert people. Let our own UBC bring programs to educate the people so that abagala kugumaza babeereyo bagumaza naye naffe they can advise, guide. And people in time will judge the one who is their friend and who is just using them.
Tune into UBC Radios for credible socio-economic programs. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
As Uganda works towards Vision 2040, UBC Radio is dedicated to the development of Uganda. Join us every day for transformative programs in English, Swahili, and Luo. This is UBC Radio.
This is Independent Sound. UBC has 11 sister radio stations spread throughout the country to educate, inform, and entertain. Tune in to UBC Radio FM 98, your national radio station, Magic 100, where sports and music is our life. 87.5 Star FM in Uganda, 97.4 UBC West covering Western Uganda, 102 Mega FM in Gulu, 97 FM Butebo Radio in Eastern Uganda, 107.0 Buduri FM, 100.5 Nge FM in Kasese, 98.0 West Nile FM in Arua, Total Radio FM 90 in Karamoja, and 93.0 Voice of Mundbujo. Now you're covered in your local language. UBC Radios, inspiring Uganda.
At UBC Radio, all our radio network across the country is committed to inform, entertain, educate, and guide for national transformation.
Our own radio, UBC, should set its own example. Leka bano abatafa ku bantu baffe bagumaza ndowooza Muganda kitwa kugumaza to divert people. Let our own UBC bring programs to educate the people so that abagala kugumaza babeereyo bagumaza naye naffe they can advise, guide. And people in time will judge the one who is their friend and who is just using them.
Tune into UBC Radios for credible socio-economic programs. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Radio, you're welcome to Young and Smart program. My name is Ivan Tumkonde. It's exactly 17 minutes past the hour of 3. And today, I welcome you to this show. And I hope you've been doing well. I hope you've had a wonderful week. It's been a long one for me, but so fruitful. I thank God. We've been doing great in as far as sensitizing the young people in the fight against corruption is concerned, and also doing other endeavors that do contribute to, the development of this country. The Young and Smart program is here to give you a platform as a young person to be able to contribute to what goes on in this country and be able to have your voices heard to the powers that be. Today on the show, we are talking about a monster that has destroyed lives, a monster that has hindered our development as a country, not only as Uganda, as a whole of the African continent. As we always say that we're so rich in resources, but then when it comes to empowering our people, we don't really know what usually goes wrong. And we want to be looking at exactly what the problem is. And we are discussing the issue of corruption. Corruption or would be maybe data. That's what we're going to be discussing. And don't be surprised when we keep bringing in some local languages to emphasize such that someone can feel how painful it is to have this monster destroy nations. We're going to be looking at the role of the young people, the role of youth in the fight against this monster of corruption. And with me in the studio, starting from my immediate right, putting on black natural hair, bending straight on her shoulders, looking great. Siobhan, you're welcome to Young and Smart program.
Thank you so much, Ivan.
Kindly say hello to the listeners.
A good afternoon to all our listeners out there. It is really a blessing to be here to talk about this monster today.
Thank you. And from my left, Patrick, say hello to the listener.
Oh, thank you so much, Ivan. Hello, listeners. My name is Patrick Okello. A very young and passionate man about youth engagements and community change. Thank you so much. Enjoy the program with us.
Thank you. And as usual, Tresleen.
Good afternoon, everyone. Tresleen Ankonda is my name. Straight out from Busheng district. And I'm really so much humbled and honored to be part of this program, specifically to dig down into this corruption vice, into this aspect of what is corruption, why has it each and to improve how much are our inputs as the people. This and much more, surely you cannot touch the dial. Thank you.
Patrick, which district do you come from?
I come from Surrey district, that is in Teso region.
Thank you for representing the Teso region people. Coming to my far left, Hajat, should I call you Hajat? But well put in a kakaya, is it called a kakaya? And a pink dress, looking very smart. You're welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good afternoon, dear listeners. My name is Shamim Kovsinge. I'm an advocate, I'm a lecturer, I'm a youth leader coming from Masindi district. Yeah, we are here to discuss and see how we can curb this cancer called corruption. Stay tuned.
Thank you so much. Starting with you, Tresleen, help us to break down this monster, corruption, in your own understanding.
Well, when we talk about corruption, definitely everyone would have their own understanding of what corruption is. But one thing that would make us have a common or union understanding is that it is bad. That is for sure that we know corruption is bad. Whether you believe corruption to be this or that, we are talking about two aspects, need and greed. Because corruption starts with you thinking about something. You think about it, most of the times actually people go ahead to plan for it. You think and you're like, today, how am I going to get this money? Probably you hold a certain office and it is a budget allocation. And in your idea, in your mind, you allocate more to a certain item than the other. And even when you allocate to what should be allocated to the other aspects and spaces, you still to have you're going to have some cash exchange, or you're going to drop off that budget. Somehow you will benefit. So most of us have tried to zero it or to see it in monetary forms, but there is much more to corruption than that. For example, I want to say you have a job. We can use the recent NSSF scenario that happened. Maybe you're a manager of a certain institution, and sometimes you're having recruitment. And what procedures do you follow? You call your neighbor, you call your sister, you call your father, you call each and everyone connected to you. And when you call them, not that sometimes they're actually qualified or that they actually have what is required, but there is somehow the aspect called favoritism. So favoritism, ningashi what we might call it in my language, okweyebeza, ninga shokwe antabawe, it can help be an aid to what we can term as corruption. And then usually, because it starts with the mind, we have not looked at it in a say that even some of our parents who corruption, but somehow young as we grow up, we tend to see it as favoritism, and then you think it's okay. You grow up and your mother, for example, gives this one this pocket money. Maybe you're the firstborn or you're the favored child. They give you 50K. This one is given 10K. The other one is given 5K. So no, but the children will find out themselves. And what happens when they find out themselves? They're like, oh, so you mean my mother can actually do this to me? Too. And you find that in society, when they reach outside and they are able to see the real world, it is actually okay for me to do this, because anyways, if my mother did it, then I too, I think I can do it, and it's really okay. So when you talk about corruption, you talk about obshuma, theft, obshuma. This is, I think, the most
I think you look at the word corruption being a bit, simple and a bit sweet to really bring out what corruption indeed means.
Yes. What you see in your is obshuma. In my language, you call it obshuma. Because I have this need, I have this urgency, and sometimes because I'm broke, I should swindle here and there. If I can get this faster, because young people have refused to accept the fact that things take time. And so because we need time, but not only give time, but what we want. What us back is us expecting to have things on a silver plate. Waiting for money, maybe in the National Youth Council, they have been saved. You find they can distribute a little money amongst themselves, and this vice in reality to be a myth, because you can for this, but when it is there, you still not using it appropriately. So corruption and desire versus greed, because it is greed, it is poverty, it is satisfaction with the little that we have, and to understand that success comes through sweat. And so I should be able to sell my pancakes today. Tomorrow I could ride a Mercedes Benz. So that is the aspect and space that we need to work in as the young people.
Thank you so much, Treslin. Coming to you, Patrick, and from the perspective of the people of Teso, I want to understand what does corruption mean to you? And from the time that you were growing up and listening to people talk about corruption, what comes into your head? But as an individual, what is this word that I call the monster corruption?
Oh, thank you so much, Ivan, once more. I just want to emphasize, like Treslin did, that nowadays we think that corruption is only happening in offices. And when I talk about offices, automatically we're talking about government and public offices. But I want to emphasize that corruption is happening in every aspect of society, and we're starting from the family. And to me, I think it's one thing that has developed because we've had a lot of reluctance in our families. Because how does someone corrupt reach a government officer? I think it starts from how the parents brought them up, and if the parents are reluctant on correcting them when they're still young, it means that they won't ever change, even when they get into a serious government office or maybe in a position of authority. in Soroti or in Serere, where I come from, corruption is known as a chamsana. I don't know whether Ivan will be able to repeat that after this, but it's called
As a chemisana, how does corruption become a chemisana?
Food minded.
Wow.
chamusana.
Or call it kintu kidogo. I don't know.
Kitu kidogo. Now, this is one thing in Soroti. For us now, it's actually more. People mostly that side look at the chamsana as something that mostly happens in government engagements and activities. But if I may share an occurrence in Serere, where money for construction of roads was allocated and this money wasn't accounted for at the end of it all, and there were no roads actually that were constructed. It was actually a scenario where roads in the town council were supposed to be I don't know how to call it, rehabilitated, but that wasn't done, and it went to the scenario whereby one of the government officials was actually put behind jails because of this. So I feel young people outside there, because they're talking about young people, how can young people be able to create a difference amongst themselves for the future and for the best of our country? We think that young people shouldn't join this vice, and we think that we as
when you hear about someone being corrupt, how does it make you feel?
I feel very sad and disappointed, because corruption usually, the people that are usually corrupt are the ones that you don't expect to be corrupt. And these are people that actually inspire young people. And I would like to emphasize that we've gotten very much disappointed by the people that we've looked up to from the time that we're young. And we feel like we do not have the examples to learn from as young people. And I feel our elders, the people that are listening to this show today, should actually be able to borrow a leaf from this program, so that they can be able to cause change wherever they are. In that office that you are, in that family that you are, can you raise a voice for the young people to actually be able to learn from? And
Thank you, Patrick. We'll be coming back to exactly what the role of young people can be able to be in order to fight this monster corruption. Coming to you, Shamim. I understand actually for the Muslims, thefts in the Sharia law, I don't know how it is handled, anything to do with theft, corruption, but I understand they will handle you with an iron hand if at all you're caught stealing, and most especially taking advantage of the vulnerable. That is so much condemned across all the other religions, but it's more harsh when it comes to the Sharia law. What does corruption mean to you? And when you hear about people being corrupt, swindling money here and there, how does it make you feel?
It obviously makes me feel bad, because I personally am an anti-corruption champion.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yes. Yeah, first of all, corruption to me involves, corruption is kind of wide. It relates to bribery, theft, anything to do with unfairness, favoritism, injustice, one being unjust because they want money or material benefits. Yes. All that relates to corruption. Once anyone does something that is not under protocol with an aim of getting monetary benefits or material benefits, to me, that's corruption.
Can the young people be corrupt? If I don't have a job, I don't, I'm not responsible for anything. I'm not working for anyone. Can I be corrupt?
We are all corrupt in Uganda today.
Are you for real?
And the fight against corruption begins with me personally to others. Yes.
That's amazing. How are young people corrupt? What are those things that we do without understanding that we are corrupt?
I will start with a young kid. For example, a P1 kid. No, let me set aside the P1 kid. For example, a primary 6 pupil. Yeah. I will give an example. You find that there was a scenario. A head teacher goes to the bursar and tells the bursar, we have a trip. I want you to tell the pupils that we have a trip and it shall cost 20,000 shillings. The bursar comes to the students, to the pupils, and tells them, we have a trip and it is 100,000 shillings.
Student.
A pupil. Then this pupil goes to the parent, to the mother.
It's a circle.
And tells the mother, we have a trip.
It's for 200.
For 200. The mother will go to the father.
250.
You get what I'm saying? So we are all corrupt. And if we are to fight corruption, I think it should be a culture within us.
Everyone has to play a responsibility.
Yes, it's our role.
Yes.
Yeah.
Coming to you, Shivan, what does the word corruption mean to you?
For me, the word corruption is broad, depending on how you decide to understand it. For the basics, corruption is when a person in power abuses their power for personal gains. Now, that is for basics for government officials, for public services. That is what corruption means. But when I look at corruption, I want to look at it from oneself. Like Comrade Shamim has just said, corruption starts with you. If you cannot be genuine
and honest
to yourself, then what are the chances that you will go out there and be honest and genuine? And it all starts with oneself. As much as many of us want to understand corruption in a way of theft only, of money, no, the corruption sometimes, most of the times, is not only about money. It's about even how we conduct ourselves. Like Council Tracy just said, sometimes you find a government institution or an organization, and everyone in the organization somehow has a blood relations to the CEO or the boss. Still, that's corruption, because what are you doing in this organization as a family that a normal Ugandan who is not related to you cannot do better?
Thank you so much. We need to understand that Uganda loses over 9.1 trillion shillings to corruption. That's every year, according to the IGG's report. And of recent, we have been seeing very many corrupt cases in the eyes of the public. Talk about the recent one of the OPM's office, where they were spending over 9 billion shillings just in promotion of coffee for the youth to be able to consume coffee. Not only that, very many other cases that we'll be able to talk about as we go on with the show. And my question is, are we normalizing corruption? Is corruption becoming the way of life, to the extent that if you're driving on the road, you meet a traffic officer and you've committed an offense, it'll be easy for them to say, hey, yogera ngo muganda, yogera ngo musajja. Without being shameful, it's become some kind of way that's how we are supposed to live. And people today think they can easily get away with anything, either because they have money or because they know someone who is powerful. Patrick, is corruption becoming the way of life?
Very true. It's unfortunate that in our society today and in our country, this has been something looked at as normal. Like I told you, the fact that it's entering young people and it has already entered young people, you get to realize that something doesn't enter a young person if it has not been looked at as normal by the people that have inspired them. If I go into a government office to apply for a job or for internship, and I'm asked to bribe, with about 2 million or 3 million shillings by someone who look at us as a father, I feel we are normalizing this vice, because when I get into that office or become an intern in that place, if somebody else came to me and requested for support, I'll definitely do the same thing. It's unfortunate that a very, very small population of people that are working in a formal setting are actually not corrupt today. And I think you can actually be together with me on that particular thought. So it's actually something that looks normal, in that by the time you even start to plan to move into a government office or into any other formal setting, you've already put on your budget, you've included something to bribe someone. Like you've said about the issues of you now traveling on roads, and maybe you're on a border, and maybe your border man doesn't have a helmet. You're very much comfortable sitting on this border knowing that this border man can actually pay 10,000 to traffic policeman in case they caught us. So I feel it is something that you've normalized as a country, and you're not even raising concern about it. And the fact that you're not raising concern about it means that you're very comfortable with it and you don't see any problem with it. We only now look at these big scandals in government, the issues of the Iron Sheet scandals. Now, we only mind of the big monies. How about the 10,000 that you're losing, that you've not budgeted for? And how about the 10,000 that you're paying to someone to get something easily without having to use the right process? I think that is what we should really pay our attention to. We should focus on those small things that are making us to groom young people into corrupt people. Thank you so much.
Patrick, coming to you, Tresseline, is there any instance where you have been in a compromising state and you thought you would get by corrupting someone, and what did you do to get away from that?
Wow. So I think yes, there could have been that instance, to be honest, where I felt like Tracy, if you had money, some monetary issues, but sometimes people are limited because they don't have the money. So we are talking about corruption, but ourselves, we are aiding the process. I would find it a bit okay. Some parents would find it okay to go to Senate, for example, at Makerere, and pay 3 million for their child to be put on government list, knowing that if the person is going to do law, for example, they will have been saved more millions throughout the entire academics. So me, myself, I think there are those scenarios, but the limit could have been because I was not able to have what they needed or required from me. And so I gave up. But when you give up and have other options and other alternatives, So personally, to look at it in the sense that corruption is a one-man fight, that you need to start with yourself. But then also ensure that you carry along your other neighbors. I want us to look at a country like, for example, I don't know, many of us have heard about the 4 Asian tigers, where we have Singapore, we have Hong Kong, South Korea. I've forgotten the 4th one. So when you look at a country like Singapore, for example, Singapore is a very small country that has a population of around 5.6 million. 5.6 million. Uganda has over 40 million, over 40 million people. And so when you look at a country like Singapore, what their approach, I think, towards corruption is, because when you talk about corruption and its persistency, the reason is because corruption is a crime, and it being a crime, there should be penalty. But the gaps in the penalty aspect have made it continuously grow and gradually. Look at case scenarios like the Chogam scandal. It was never resolved. Money went and that was it. Look at issues like the Jim Hos scandals. Look at issues like the Katosi land scandal. And so what Singapore does is that it is a very industrialized country, very small, and the government takes on the initiative to ensure that services are free to the people. You want to attain education, you go and have your education. But they also have challenges amidst that, because this is a country, it being densely populated with the 5 million people that they have. You find this is a skyscraper or a flat, and over say 90 floors. A school is at 5th floor. A hotel is at 10th floor. Another one is at 30th floor. And so it is kind of a whole congested thing. But what is the remedy? The remedy is that if you're sick, you are assured you will go to any hospital. You go to any hospital and do what? And get payment and get worked on at a free cost. When you have your child and they want to attain education, they will still at a free cost. But however, your salary that you pay, 20% is subjected to government. Government takes it away as compulsory. And so it uses that same money to ensure that you're given all the services as a must without any objection. Now, when you come to Uganda's situation, it's a different story. People are going to hospitals. It is a government hospital. Your child is very sick. They've given you recommendations of medicine that is actually not even in that hospital. What do? There is another mini hospital which has been formed as part of the main hospital, government hospital, that is using the same money and the same materials to actually offer you money. And so when they say, you know what, pay 20K, the other hospital sells the same medicine at 50K. And in the long run, you pay the 20K. But it is still what? It is still corruption. So looking at the aspect of penalty, it is very key. People need to be held accountable. Personally, I need to be held accountable of anything that I partake to believe in. Because if people don't see others being punished, if people think because I hold such a position or because I have such status in community or because I have money, someone at a scenario as depressed as someone will go and lobby around, not lobby, and still lobby, yes, and lobby around, say, 10 billion. When they are brought to table or to courts of justice, they are taken to prison. But what is the importance? 6 months later, or how many months they're given bail. And so they are off the record. And you never hear cases. You never hear how did the case go. Because anyways, they have the money. That same money that was lobbied. Someone will take 10 billion and use 3 billion in the case and win the case. And so legal profession playing a role, the government playing a role, and then we question the role played by religious leaders. Corruption, my friends, has now gone to religious leaders. That you are a bishop who we expect to be of noble character, but in church, you're in church, when an MP comes in, your area member of parliament, for example, I come from Igara East, I'll not mention my member of parliament, but some of you could actually know him, that when he appears in church, there is this young child or young woman that has always been attending church each and every Sunday, that they'll be shifted from the front seat and they'll carry you behind because an MP has appeared in church. And we see things to be normal to the extent that you even feel like, let me pass. Let me just excuse the MP. He needs to have such a seat. That you're at a burial and your member of parliament arrives late. In the middle of the speeches, there is an interjection. what happens in the interjection? That the member of parliament is in a hurry. Now that is social structure, class setting apart others in differences in terms of you have the reputation, but can it be done in a more easier and modified way? That someone is going to pose you around everyone. They'll only speak for 2 minutes, and after 2 minutes, the member of parliament will tell you, "I'm in a hurry. I need to take my leave." This is someone who has actually inconvenienced almost everyone around, and then they just have to speak for 2 minutes because they are in a hurry going somewhere else. And all these keep blowing into our mind that it is okay, it is normal, so I can be with it. That is how it has been. That is how I've seen people doing it today. Even me, tomorrow when I become a member of parliament, I feel like it's okay, because of the position I hold. But we need to question a lot of things. We need to ensure that we have penalty. I would emphasize penalty, because without penalty, without us seeing that this such and such a big person in government has been a victim because of corruption, then I don't see us having solutions that are really ending.
So we need to see action being taken. That's in
Yes.
short. Where people have stolen money, we should see them refunding that money. If they are convicted, they should pay back that money. Thank you so much, Treslin. You can be part of this conversation by calling us on 0776 511 426. Call us on 0776 511 426. You can also send us a WhatsApp message on 0706 300 834. 0706 300 834. You can send us a WhatsApp message, a text message, and be part of this conversation. We're also broadcasting, streaming live on YouTube at UBC Radio Uganda. Be part of the conversation, send in your questions. We are going to go in for a break. When we come back, we'll be listening in from the Deputy IGG. And you can send in your questions. She'll be able to answer them. We'll be right back after the break.
Works towards Vision 2040. UBC Radio is dedicated to the development of Uganda. Join us every day for transformative programs in English, Swahili, and Luo. This is UBC Radio.
This is Independent Sound. UBC has 11 sister radio stations spread throughout the country to educate, inform, and entertain. Tune in to UBC Radio FM 98, your national radio station, Magic 100, where sports and music is our life. 87.5 Star FM in Uganda. 97.4 UBC West covering Western Uganda. 102 Mega FM in Gulu. 97 FM Butebo Radio in Eastern Uganda. 107.0 Buduri FM. 100.5 Nge FM in Kasese, 98.0 West Nile FM in Arua, Total Ray Radio FM 90 in Karamoja, and 93.0 Voice of Mundbujo. Now you covered in your local language. UBC Radios, inspiring Uganda.
At UBC Radio, all our radio network across the country is committed to inform, entertain, educate, and guide for national transformation.
On radio, UBC should set its own example. Leka bano abatafa ku bantu baffe bagumaza ndowooza muganda kito kugumaza to divert people. Let our own UBC bring programs to educate the people so that abagala kugumaza babeereyo bagumaza naye naffe they can advise, guide. And people in time will judge the one who is their friend and who is just using them.
Tune into UBC Radios for credible socio-economic programs. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Animals, rains, plants, forests, fisheries, and birds. Water, land, sunlight, rocks, and air. This is the environment that we live in, the giver of life and habitat for all living and non-living. Let's all protect the environment to avoid destruction of nature. This is the Environmental Alert on UBC Radio, inspiring Uganda.
This is Independent Sound. UBC has 11 sister radio stations spread throughout the country to educate, inform, and entertain. Tune in to UBC Radio FM 98, your national radio station, Magic 100, where sports and music is our life. 87.5 Star FM in Uganda, 97.4 UBC West covering Western Uganda, 102 Mega FM in Gulu, 97 FM Butembo Radio in Eastern Uganda, 107.0 Bududi FM, 100.5 Nge FM in Kasese, 98.0 West Nile FM in Arua, Total Ray Radio FM 90 in Karamoja, and 93.0 Voice of Mundbujo. Now you covered in your local language. UBC Radios, inspiring Uganda.
Thank you so much. You're still listening to UBC Radio 98.0 here in central Uganda, 99.4 in Lira, 97.4 in Arua. And we are also streaming live on YouTube at UBC Radio Uganda. We're discussing the role of youth in the fight against corruption. What can you do as young people out there in your community, in your school, at your workplace to make sure that we fight this monster that is hindering development of our country? As I told you, that we'll be coming back with the Deputy IGG, Dr. Patricia Achan Okiria, who will be helping us to answer some of the questions that you have been able to send in, but at the same time helping us to understand how we can fight this monster. Dr. Patricia, welcome to UBC Radio, Majorly Young and Smart program.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tumukunde Ivan, and the youth out there. Thank you for promoting this program, UBC Radio, and good evening.
Thank you. Thank you. If I can request, Doctor, if you can put off your radio for now, such that we don't have some echo coming in.
Thank you, Ivan. I have turned it off.
Thank you. Thank you. It's good now. So, Doctor, starting with our topic today, what can the young people be able to do in the fight against corruption? Or yourselves, how are you engaging the young people in the fight against corruption? At the same time, this monster, do us a breakdown such that someone can understand actually they might have ignorantly been corrupt. Doctor?
Yes, Ivan. I think I would introduce myself by defining what corruption is, and I will touch a bit on the role of the youth. Now, when you look at corruption, it's about misuse of public trust and resources for private gain. Many people out there engage in corrupt acts due to lack of good moral values. So if the youth can uphold good moral values, they will be aware about the consequences of their actions and be able to refrain from it. And then another thing, Ivan, I think corruption can be prevented from within if young people build strong moral values, values of integrity, of honesty, of leadership, of accountability, transparency, fairness, equity, and trust among themselves as youth. Because when you look at corruption in the world today, there are so many things driving corruption. And that is why we say there is an epidemic of corruption in our Ugandan society today. It is a problem in every aspect of our lives. Like the lady here aptly articulated through her submission, there seems to be no one who has escaped corruption. Everyone is affected. And she even duly gave the examples of church, the house of God, which should be a holy place. And we are hosting the corrupt. these people are stealing money out there. These people have a bad image out there. But when they come to church, you're giving them the best seats. And they're bringing the proceeds of corruption to contribute towards the church projects. Now, this corrupt behavior actually undermines power and society as a whole. This rampant corruption needs to be checked immediately, or we will be left behind. We will be, eaten up by it. So combating corruption actually requires the full involvement of the youth. For instance, a youth brigade can be created to keep an eye on the offices and organize awareness campaigns concerning the crime of corruption. And therefore, you see the youth being able to participate, one, by using their voice. They can be able to convince people not to resort to corruption to achieve their goals. People should be discouraged from offering or accepting bribes from young people, and work will get done by itself without any money exchanging hands. So when you look at corruption thrives in many ways. But as young people, we need to engage in this conversation and know our responsibility in fighting corruption. Because we can even set up integrity clubs in schools. Like there are some schools that have integrity clubs where we encourage the young people. We encourage them because we know that the youth engaging in fighting corruption is very essential in curbing this corruption vice in the country. Youth represent a very significant portion in the population. And because they are many, they can have a bigger impact in combating corruption. So what we can do to use our young people today is by encouraging conversations like what you are having, increasing youth awareness of corruption issues, by generating community responsibility among the young people, and encouraging action on how to prevent corruption in the country. So Ivan, I think rather than us lamenting on the scale or scope of corruption, it's important that we engage in conversations with young people and highlight their power and responsibility to change the culture for the betterment of our country. So we need to encourage the youth, first of all, to be the change we want to see, and sensitize them to be aware of the cost of corruption, encourage them to act for the common good, strengthen the youth engagement in anti-corruption efforts, encourage them to report cases of corruption, because the youth have a voice and they can play a very pivotal role in the fight against corruption, since they are an integral element in shaping the culture in our country. So I think they play a very, very significant role, and they can focus on building themselves and helping people understand the values they exhibit, and we can uphold the measures which can be adopted to transmit the values I was talking about that will ultimately reduce corruption acts. So this will aim at building an informed and aware, awakened citizenry with high integrity, moral values, deep consciousness, and which will lead to decreased corruption. So we just need to continue encouraging and assuring ourselves of the strong democratic culture and the role of the youth, and how they can position themselves in helping us to achieve this war against corruption and to be successful in it. So I think this conversation is quite good, and we should continue encouraging it, because people should be educated, first of all, on various anti-corruption laws and the rights to information, which should be available when needed, because education is essential to ensure, first of all, security of our country, and then the youth play a very significant responsibility, heavy responsibility. Recently, you realize when the issues of corruption came up in the Mabati scandal, you realize the role of the youth in spreading the information on social media, and everybody got to know. So it's important for us to concentrate more on the values, because the values are like the foundation. They shape our well-being. They transform institutions and individual behavior. Values can enhance positive influence by the youth. They can improve the quality of leaders we have, and brand and promote the positive image about the citizens. So I think we need to concentrate more on the values. If we can have youth of integrity, youth who can articulate issues like the ones I've been listening to on the radio right now. I am very, very proud that it's happening, because I know that you may say something little which will have impact because of the power you have as young people. So thank you very much, Ivan, for giving me the opportunity to speak on air, and I now welcome any questions, comments, or observations towards the fight against corruption. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doctor. I'll start with my own question. You elaborate on how pivotal the role of youth is and how strong, actually, if the youth are engaged, we can be able to fight this monster. What is the IGG's office doing to engage, or actually, how are you engaging the youth in the fight against corruption?
Thank you very much, Ivan. You realize that we have reawakened the dissemination or unpacking our national values, which Uganda passed in 2013. So when we unpack these values, we identify aspects where the youth can play a very significant role. And it's part of the education and awareness programs. Then we have got the community persons, the community monitoring groups in our rural areas, where we have engaged majority of the youth. They are like our eyes. They help in monitoring government programs and projects. They report cases to us. They are involved with the civil society organizations in creating and disseminating information. And we have trained and empowered them and equipped them with skills and tools to be able to do this role. And then we have got the youth clubs in the different universities, the youth integrity promotion forums, where we're saying as young people, we need to be people of integrity, and we need to promote this integrity among the fellow youth. So we also encourage leadership by example. If a youth is offering leadership of substance, then he must be exemplary, he must be having integrity, he must be promoting transparency, accountability, and anti-corruption in his leadership. So role of the youth of government, we really appreciate, first of all, the youth in this country. One, they're the majority of the population. Two, they have got the ability to disseminate information. Three, they have got the power to be the change we want to see. So we know that they play a pivotal role. And for us in the inspectorate, we are saying we want citizens to own the war against corruption. When citizens own the war against corruption, and majority of the citizens are the youth, then we see the youth playing a very significant role. One, in coming out as whistleblowers or informers. Two, in spreading their wings to the fellow youth and encouraging them to lead in the fight against corruption. Three, in their leadership responsibilities in the different institutions up to primary level. We are saying we should have talking compounds about the negative effects of corruption, about being a zero tolerance to corruption in schools and so on, about promoting the clubs, the integrity clubs among young people, so that they know the values. They know that this country can be a better country when we are corrupt-free, and we can be able to enjoy socioeconomic benefits in the country when it is corrupt-free. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Doctor. This comes from Shamim. Shamim is asking, why are some complaints raised to the IGG's office neglected? Are there some people who are untouchables? And she gives an example of the National Youth Council that they filed. They filed a complaint in regards to misuse of the funds, and most probably they never got feedback. Are there untouchables, Doctor?
In the inspectorate of government, there are no untouchables, because you realize that the rule of law applies equally to everybody, irrespective of their status, irrespective of position, irrespective of title. So Shamim, that investigation is ongoing. I'm aware about it, to do with misuse of funds. And maybe because it has taken quite some time, I think it's about 2 or 3 months now. Let us be patient. We have been having challenges. We have got anti-corruption brigades going on and so many activities, and we're doing the high-profile cases as well, and we have been re-strategizing on how to improve our own performance internally as the Inspectorate of Government. But believe you me, Shamim, that complaint will be fully addressed, and we shall get back to you with a comprehensive report with full recommendations for action on what should be taken or done in order to address that issue. We received several complaints, and we also have challenges to do with backlog, but progressively we will be able to handle and address. Please, Shamim, don't feel shy to follow up with me. My number can be shared with you, and I will update you on the status, because we cannot keep replying back and forth, writing letters here and there. But sometimes we go quiet when we're doing the investigations. Then after a while, you will see the report coming out, and we'll be getting back to you in that regard. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think on the same case, Doctor, if possible, can you kindly give the contact that people can be able to use in case they have anything they would like to report on corruption?
In case anybody has something to report on corruption, we have got our general lines in the Inspectorate of Government, which is +256 414 255 892. And then we also have 259738, 259738. Then we have got the Airtel, which is 771 692 919. We have got the hotlines for those urgent issues. It's on +256 414 344 810. If it is something personal you want to discuss with me as Patricia Achano Kiria, I am on 0772 469270. Thank you very much, Ivan.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Shivan asks, why are government officials with corruption cases allowed to continue working while the investigations are going on? Don't you think, to a certain extent, this disrupts the investigation process?
I agree with Shivan. Usually the right procedure we take is to have someone interdicted. If he's suspected to having been involved in a corruption practice, we interdict you so that you pave way for smooth investigations. But in the course of investigations, sometimes we get into out-of-court settlement or plea bargain during the course of the hearing of the case in court. And then there are some parties who agree. They said, well, I committed the offense. I think I need to pay back. And we also look at recovery of assets, recovery of monies, and then these monies go to the asset recovery fund and eventually the consolidated fund. But it depends on the negotiation we have had, and we also look at the gravity of the offense. There are situations when someone can be asked to resign and leave office because he's no longer competent to hold that position. Then while investigations are going on, we prefer that someone steps aside. But there are also situations where it is just a suspicion, investigations have not disclosed any offense, then that person continues to hold that position. Or sometimes he could have been arrested and granted bond, then he goes back to his office because investigations have not revealed exactly that he has been involved in the corruption-related offense. So we do rely heavily on informers. If we get information, we act on that information. But I can tell you, Shivan, corruption is covert. It is sometimes hard to know when a bribe has taken place unless we set traps, unless you give us information, unless you report quickly and we do the quick detection and quick fixing. Otherwise, thank you very much for that question. And I believe we can still work together to ensure that we clean our country. It's unfortunate for the messages or information where you see government officials continuing to hold positions, yet they have been reported, but it's because of the reason I have shared. Sometimes people report false information, sometimes they report speculation, but when we go into investigations, we then get to discover more. Sometimes it is the reporter also who had a hand in it, because when we talk about bribery, it's a two-way thing, the giver and the recipient. Sometimes when the recipient or the giver has gotten a sour deal or the deal has gone sour, he then turns around, come and report his friends, and yet he was party to it. But during investigations, we discover all that, and sometimes we make them witnesses, or they can come and testify in court, and so on. But that is what we do in dealing with corruption-related cases. But corruption is so covert, like an amoeba. It is not easy to do and have good prosecutable cases, but we rely heavily on the public. And I would like to encourage the youth out there, if you know of cases, please come and report, and you will be protected as a whistleblower. And we also give the whistleblower a reward of 5% of the proceeds when we recover the proceeds. If you have prevented loss of funds, public funds, we reward you 5% of the proceeds of what we have recovered from the case you have reported. And that is provided for ably in the Whistleblower Protection Law of 2010. Thank you very much.
Lastly, Dr. Patrick is asking, what more can be done to measure the government officials who are involved in corruption scandals and being able to hold them more accountable? And specifically on the issue of recovery, sometimes arrested, convicted, but they only serve their punishment in prison. Can more be done, for example, to make sure that all the resources they've stolen are recovered, such that to the government?
Thank you very much, Patrick. Brilliant question. We're having challenges with the procedure against the property. We are now in the process of doing the civil asset recovery law, where you proceed against the individual, he goes and serves a term in prison, but you also proceed against the assets the individual has stolen. This will to recover, so that when someone completes service, he does not come back to enjoy the proceeds of corruption. So we want to proceed both against the individual and against the property, against the loot this individual has got. And this is why we say we need that law as in like yesterday. But the law is in the offing. The law is being drafted, worked on, and when that law is passed, it will be very easy. It's true what you have brought out. We need to recover not only the funds, but we also need to have the law hashed. We need to have the culprits punished by the law, so that when they serve their term in prison, they do not come back to again occupy those positions. And the Anti-Corruption Act provides that anyone who has been convicted of the offense of corruption is not eligible to holding a public office for 10 years. So in most cases, we push them off using that provision of the law, because we know they are not competent to hold those positions. One, because they lack accountability, they are not people of integrity, and they cannot be entrusted with that responsibility. Because the law says we hold those positions in trust of the people. We are representing the people. But if we are representing the people and we are not trusted by the people, and we cannot exhibit integrity, and we cannot promote accountability, then we are not competent to hold those positions. And that is the reason why we say these public officials or government officials who have failed to measure up to the expectations of them as leaders, they should not be able to hold those positions. But thank you very much for those brilliant questions, and may God bless you. And thank you, Ivan Tumukunde, for the program.
Thank you, Doctor. Maybe if you have any last message to young people out there in as far as their role is concerned in the fight against corruption.
Thank you. And to the young listeners out there, we know that you have a very powerful voice and you play a very pivotal role in the fight against corruption, because you are part of the integral element in shaping the cultures in this country. So we are relying on you to report cases of corruption, to disseminate anti-corruption values. We want you to be involved as the youth, because the future of this country is in your hands as young people. So let us engage in these conversations. Let us continue to helping other young people out there to understand the values they exhibit, and we will be able to promote these values and adapt to transmit these values and ultimately reduce corrupt acts in this country. Thank you very much, young people, and may God bless you. And when I grow up, I want to be young like you and participate more and engage in such conversations.
Thank you. Thank
You
you.
over and out.
Thank you
Bye.
so much, Doctor, for your time.
Animals, rains, plants, forests, fisheries, and birds. Land, sunlight, rocks, and air. This is the environment that we live in, the giver of life and habitat for all living and non-living. Environment to avoid destruction of nature. This is the Environmental Alert on UBC Radio, inspiring Uganda. As Uganda works towards Vision 2040, UBC Radio is dedicated to the development of Uganda. Join us every day for transformative English, Swahili, and Luo. This is Radio.
At UBC Radio, all our radio network across the country is committed to inform, entertain, educate, and guide for national transformation.
Our own radio, UBC, should set its own example. Leka bano ku bantu baffe bagumaza ndowooza Muganda kiyitibwa kugumaza, to divert people. Let our own UBC bring programs to educate the people so that abagala kugumaza babeereyo bagumaza naye naffe can advise, guide. And people in time will judge the one who is their friend and who is just using them.
Tune into UBC Radios for credible socio-economic programs. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Welcome back. You're still listening into UBC Radio Young and Smart program. And today we're discussing the role of young people in the fight against corruption. My name is Ivan Tumkunda, and in studio I have Shivan, I have Patrick, I have Tresselyn, and Shamim. Can we have reaction starting with you, Shivan, to the submissions by the Deputy IGG?
First of all, the Deputy IGG has a lot of good information to pass on to the young people. I do appreciate that corruption is more of morals and values of an individual. I liked all her submissions. Are they doable to a certain extent? No. However, we shall not go to the back and forth. I just appreciate what she had to say.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. Shamim, I see you're burning. What's up? Was your question answered?
It wasn't answered.
They said you need to wait a little bit, Shamim, as the investigations are still going on.
I'm sure our IGG is listening. I would like to kindly inform her that we filed our petition in regards to the swindling of the NYC funds, which the youth of this nation are supposed to benefit from.
What is the budget of NYC?
It has been 4 billion.
Wow.
And the NYC funds were supposed to be budgeted by the delegates of the National Youth Council. They didn't budget for it. And it's through the budget that the delegates allocate the funds, the expenditure of the funds. We've never received any accountability. We don't know anything in relation to the funds of the youth of this nation. And even when it comes to council, we have to wait for the youth day, for the president to donate some money for the youth day, for us to have a National Youth Council. So I'm humbly requesting her to please, if it needs me doing another petition, I can.
Good thing.
Me and my colleagues.
Good thing you've gotten her contact, and she's actually requested that you follow up.
But like to inform her that we filed our petition in August last year. Yeah, so it has been overtaken by events.
I understand. Jocelyn, any reactions to the submissions?
I think I picked so many points, but one that caught my attention so much was the new law that they are trying to put across, the one where that they will have to even do a follow-up on the property of the person. But what I see in the challenges in that is that most of those corrupt people, actually, the properties are not in their names. You find a random boy from somewhere, such a building is in their names. So I don't know how really that is going to be aligned to suit into this law that they're trying to.
I think
put up.
That's what she said.
And then
is
also
very, very
maybe
complicated.
to add on Shamim's on the idea, on the aspect of National Youth Council and the petition. Well, yes, it could be backlog, but I think also we need to look into things like
the urgency.
Ourselves, that when we say 4 billion, we shall not go to Gulu as the young people and say, without 1 million, we are not having a meeting. It still goes back to the same process that we're trying to fight against. So we also have that role to look into ourselves.
Thank you. Patrick?
Oh, thank you so much. I want to thank the minister, the IGG, for the remark that she's made in regards to our topic of today. But then for us as young people, we're very much hungry for actions than just words, because government officials have always promised very many things on air. But then when these occurrences actually happen, nothing much is done about it. So you can even have a new law, and you've already had very many laws about corruption. And we feel like even the new law will automatically not be implemented as expected. So if, like our trust leader said, a lot of challenges, but you expect the government to come up with a much more recommendable solution to these problems, rather than just having assumptions, and at the end of the day, we're getting no results out of it. The truth is that for us to fight against corruption, there's too much to do, and I think the government should be at first at realizing that. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. The complex that comes with the fight against corruption, like Treslin says, you're going to recover funds, and then the properties of someone definitely are in another person's name. It's so much that goes around sometimes that we might not be able to find out. It's good that there is so much that is happening at the IGG's office, and I'm certain that we shall have some fruits from what they are doing. I appreciate, and all this that is happening. We talk about theft and the issue of corruption. Starting with you, Shamim, how does this affect delivery of services?
I'll use an example of the National Youth Council. The National Youth Council is the umbrella of the youth in Uganda. And if they don't know anything in regards to the money allocated to them, isn't that failure already? Shall we have any deliverance in regards to services? That's an automatic bullet. So, corruption. First of all, let's look at the three main sectors that lead us to development: health sector, infrastructure, and education. To me, there are three main. Yeah. So when you look at our education in Uganda, how is it? Corruption has finished education in Uganda. You find a student having master's degree, yet they never attended any class. They never attended any lecture. They have a master's degree.
They told me there are universities here. You just go and pay, then you have your PhD.
Yes.
You come to the public display.
Yeah.
Wow.
We even have evidence to that. Look at our infrastructure. Look at the roads around Kampala, the potholes. taxpayer that was being wasted. So when shall we really see any development in Uganda? So the government should come out. We should, let me not say the government because I'm the government. We should come out and say no to corruption, and we should have hope that it can be curbed. It can't. We should have, and we can. It may be a long-term process, but we can really curb off corruption.
If you play your role, I play my role, and the other person plays their role, definitely we can fight corruption.
Yeah, we can.
Patrick, basically, to your understanding, what can we do to be able to hold our leaders accountable? And that's one way of fighting the corruption. If young people at LC2 parish level can understand that this is how much is coming to our village, this is how much is going to come to our parish, and they are able to hold those people in positions of power to account for that money, I believe if we have an issue in this parish to the other one, to the third one, to the fourth one, and the young people are making noise all over about theft, we can't be able to fight these people. The same way theft is fought in villages. The person will make an alarm, the other person, the neighbor makes an alarm, the other one makes an alarm, all of them come and they get the thief. And if we can be able to do that, I think we can be able to fight this monster. How can we as young people hold our leaders accountable?
Oh, thank you so much. Just before maybe I answer your question, I think patriotism among people is very much important. One thing I know about young Ugandans is that they are not so much concerned for national issues. I feel young people should be in bigger conversations like this. Take for example, today we're having this conversation, but I bet that we have a very big audience from the young people. I feel when you're so much interested in conversations of nation building, I think it helps us as a youth populace to hold our future accountable, and of course people as accountable. So if I may build on that, what would be the next thing for the youth to do, especially when it comes to accountability of to make our leaders accountable for the funds that are not actually used for their particular purposes. I feel that young people, like you said, it starts. I think it starts from sense. I think the youth leaders that we have in our country are very much informed more than the people that are leading. I feel like it starts from our youth leaders. That are we actually trying to disseminate this information to the people that are in the grassroots there down? There's some monies that are remitted levels and maybe village committees, but the young people do not actually even know. And it's surprising that even the leaders are not caring of informing them about these monies. At the end of the day, there is no accountability that is being given for these monies. And it's actually surprising that the people get to know when actually maybe the government has come in and maybe it's now a serious scandal, something that is in the media. That's when actually the people in that particular community realize that this actually happened. This money was remitted and it wasn't actually utilized for what it was supposed to be used for. So I feel, for me, I feel like it starts from our youth leaders. Can you take responsibility of these offices and not sit down and keep quiet on some of the very important things that our subjects need to know about whatever is going on? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Coming to you, Shivan, from where you're coming from, the community and the school where you are, what are you doing to make sure that you make the young people, majorly the youth, aware of their responsibility to put a brick in the fight against corruption?
For me, being a young person, a youth, sometimes you hold positions, sometimes you don't hold positions. But the one thing that I've been big on is advocating against corruption and being an activist. If you're corrupt and you're my friend, be rest assured I'm going to expose you.
That's good.
That is one of my values. You can because if I leave you to be corrupt, your corruption is going to have an influence on me. And before you know it, also it's going to have an influence on someone who listens to me.
Sure.
So it becomes a small cult that you don't even see that when it's forming, you don't know that it's forming, but it becomes like a small cult of just corrupt individuals. I take my values very, very seriously, and that's why if you're corrupt or if you're doing something that I don't really believe in, I am not going to associate.
Coming to you, Treslin, what are you doing at Girls on Mentorship Space to make sure that all your members are part of the fight against corruption?
Well, before I go to that, I wanted to pitch in something small on Shibon and Patrick, that when you look at corruption, it tends to carry along interest. Interest that some people are hopeless, people have lost hope, people are poor. Imagine you're in a family and you're a student, you're studying at the university, say in your final year, and your father maybe has a certain position in government or in whichever space they really could be. And so your father maybe at the moment does not have money and all they engage in is corruption. But when they get the money, they pay for your tuition. That you, as a student, sometimes you feel it is hard for you to actually say, no, my father is corrupt. You will not, chances are you will not go to police, one. You will not report, you will not even call these numbers they have given us to say, you see, there is a corrupt person here.
Because you're a beneficiary.
Yes. So my friend usually says that you're not a thief until you're caught. You feel because I've not been caught, I still have the energy, I can say, no, this is the thief, just because you've not been caught. So while we try to pull along with people, let's try to question so much about ourselves, because so much is within us that we are not utilizing. You can't say that your father is okay. It is okay for my father, to steal this money, but it is not okay if minister so and so does that. I don't know what grounds you'd really be basing on. And then to reiterate on Patrick's point of what best do you think we should do? Or what best do I think Girls and Mentorship should do? Or your question, Ivan. I want us to look at a country like China, Pakistan, and Iran. These countries, the dangers of corruption, especially by the public officials, is that you're killed, they execute you. The moment they get you as a corrupt person, they have enough evidence, you're killed. And so it has created an environment and atmosphere in China that you feel this is something my mind should not even think about at any one point. Because the penalty is as grave as you think. So you not even think about stealing.
It should be grave, because
Yes.
like you say, if you're a young person and your father is stealing money and taking you to a good school, building a mansion, remember there are people dying in hospitals. There are people that are dying due to carnage on the roads, which money was swindled by your father, by your mother.
That's what I said, that corruption tends to put people in a position that because you feel you're not you feel you're not benefiting, that is when you think it's corruption. But when you're benefiting, you're comfortable along the whole procedure and process and feel, no, it is okay. We can hold on a bit longer. Maybe I'll do better. Maybe I can compensate these people when I leave school. And such of so many questions like this leave corruption unanswered. Because as a remedy, myself, I tend to be comfortable and I'll not report my father. Maybe you feel, now if my life will be worse. So if we are able to mindset that corruption is indeed corruption, that if you steal, just like China, you will be executed, then you take on a very big step in your life to fight this vice that is called corruption. Otherwise, this system of vaselining and super gluing and chocolate flavoring each and every aspect in terms of corruption is still very dangerous to us. So what we do for us as young people or as girls, advocacy is very key, because advocacy creates awareness, and awareness is something very important in society. Be it in a political form, be it in the economical sector, be it in infrastructure, be it in knowledge, because such information is actually online, but people don't know about such information. For example, like they said, there is a corrupt official, you can report. It is not going to be easy. It is not going to be easy for you to say, because sometimes the evidence, people are supposed to give you that evidence, or the sources of information that you're supposed to look up to are still hindered, or there is a lot that you cannot see beyond that. Maybe it is a certain office that you're going to go to, but can you actually access that? The right to information, but is that right actually being appropriately used? You don't have the information, and so you sometimes you feel maybe what if this person is so big? First of all, my family will be put into danger. I could risk my entire clan and village, and then I'm the only child at home. What will my father say? And then they know I'm at school studying. Who are you to actually sue? Who are you? Which grounds do you stand on? And so such pullbacks still take us back. So one is that it takes courage and confidence for one to stand up and stand out against corruption. And then two, have information. Don't rely on hearsay. Just because you had someone say that one is corrupt, have information, have your facts right, and then try to demand for justice. If you have your facts right, you have the evidence correct, then honestly, it becomes easier for you to be able to channel or put across what you intend to put across for a better society.
Thank you, Treslin. Shamim, from where you're coming from, she talks about our fathers being corrupt and other people being corrupt. Amongst us as young people, and I'll talk from your institutions of learning, when you're having those elections and you're bribing people to vote for you, taking advantage, actually even stealing votes, amongst ourselves, what can we be able to fight this vice amongst us as the youth?
As the youth, when it comes to rigging, bribing,
you find a kindergarten child, buying sweets and biscuits that they are taking for their voters, and you're like, really? And it's worse that you will find also parents taking money for teachers to favor their children. When they are going for these elections, they steal votes for those young kids in primary 1, 2, 3.
Sometimes maybe it is, I want to give a scenario of some schools. You're in a school, but just because you're not maybe Catholic in that school,
yes,
you cannot hold that position of head girl.
Oh, you're
because your religion is different from their religion. So that position is reserved for them.
So amongst ourselves, before we go to blame other people and point fingers, let the 4 fingers that are pointing back at us, how do we make sure that we make that right?
I think it's in a long run. It's a long run solution, because speaking, when it comes, for example, elections, if you don't have money, forget any position. Elections, you don't have money. That's why the NRM candidates in the youth politics, because the parties support their candidates. So that's why you see that the political party shall always be in all positions.
But there will also be elections within the party, and the primaries, and talk across all the parties. Still, there will be corruption. So it will not be based on one party or the other, but individuals. An individual being in NRM and they are corrupt, they will be corrupt. An individual is corrupt if they go to FDC, NOP, or DP, they will still be corrupt people.
I said it's about our mindset. And we should look at corruption as we look at murder. We shouldn't look at it as something that is minor. Yeah, we should equate corruption like we equate to murder. Like Arabic countries that are being governed by Sharia law. And
so in short, we should have tougher laws. It might not be killing someone.
Yeah. You can when you have dirty hands. So bring the equity have dirty hands themselves. So it would be unfair for anyone to be killed. But I don't know who said so. Like we said, corruption can only be cut if we make it like a culture. For us to be anti-corrupt, it becomes a culture. And if we get are religious. You have religion training. You are a what? You are a Muslim. Yeah. So it's ungood. It is a sin, and not only but a grave sin.
The challenge
And
the churches.
and yeah, and so and the Quranic verses. The 9 verses talking about warning. The what? How do you call them, Treslin? The 9. Go the corrupt. He was Gibe. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it. Yeah, that one. The 6 verse. Go the correct. And here I'm seeing is hell. You know your Bible things. But is hellfire. So religious leaders to cut everyone say, and we can really cut it. Yeah, Holy Quran talking about corruption. So is if you forget the goal. Yeah.
Thank you. Shivan, heaven is the goal. And if you're corrupt, there is no going to heaven. Coming back to your fellow young people, and as we're doing this awareness and helping them to understand their responsibility, going forward, what should we do to make sure that every young person can play their role, and in case they have anything either that is going to get them into getting corrupt, or else it's a friend who is corrupt, what advice do you have for the young person out there?
For any young person out there, I know that yes, corruption, like the Deputy IGG said, is very, very complex. And sometimes our interests are always going to collide. But what is important for you as a young person right now is to have a stand, to have a sense of integrity, to be true to yourself. And when you have all your values, your sense of integrity, when you're sober of all those things about yourself, it becomes easier for you as a young person to always discern from the evil.
Thank you. Patrick, as we conclude, young people out there, what should they do? Where do they get started from? If I'm in my village, what should I get started doing today? We want action points, not just talking. Like the Deputy IGG said that we should stop lamenting. What do we do? Where do we get started?
Well, thank you so much. I think very many young people are getting into positions of leadership. Personally, for me, I have a belief that for us to change any trend or to change anything about society, it starts with leadership. Now, I believe why we're dragging this conversation about corruption every now and then is because our leaders are not practicing it. So I feel like young people who are getting into positions of leadership, let's practice these morals that we've been taught. And it's actually good to hear that very many young people are being mentored into leadership. And before you get into a leadership position, you're told what is expected of you. But when you get there, we are overwhelmed by other things that come in with those positions. I feel like we should actually practice the talk. Let's walk the talk. Let's actually uphold the true principles of integrity, like my fellow panelists would have said. It starts with us. It starts with us, and it's not with anyone else. So if you can actually stand out as young leaders to be able to make change or drive this change in society that we want, I think we can have a better society tomorrow. Thank you.
And you as an individual, what exactly are you going to be doing? Because as the people who are young and smart, yes, the young people out there are going to do something. You as Patrick, what should we hold you accountable for, or the next time, what should we look at to make sure that you've also been doing something?
I think individually, I think how do I earn and how do I spend? I think what you should hold me accountable for is that how do I get the money that I use, even when I don't have a job? And how am I spending that money? If I get into an elected position, whereas I'm a good president of our institution, for the listeners to know and for you, how am I going to start to budget the funds of the money that I'm supposed to get into my office? And that's something you should ask me the next time. Okay.
Thank you. Treslin, what should every young person out there do to make sure that they are putting some contribution to the fight against corruption?
Every young person can do something. I want to talk about something small. Go to a country like Tanzania. It is to my surprise that we didn't talk about the corruption in police sector, traffic officers, and it is really very absurd in that sector. That 2,000 shillings can actually be enough bribe for a police officer. When a country like Tanzania, all that have that are known to be traffic police office stations, where they have to check, do you have a driving license? Do you have, permit? How many people are in your car? The posters. There are signs that preach against corruption. You have officers standing here, and the because there are specific locations where they should stand. You have a standing here, and the poster behind shows corruption is evil. corruption is a vice. Corruption is a deadly disease. And so to you as a normal human being, it would be very sad for you to see that exact poster behind a traffic police officer and 2K to give understand is equal to pay 2K. But in regards to that, because government legislation, cost effective and etc. But what I can do, it doesn't actually take me so much to afford a Manila. A Manila is just 1K. Manilas, maybe pages against corruption. You just take a picture of you and that Manila without necessarily going to the street and post it on your Twitter, post it on your Instagram. Just have as young people, we want to follow things that we feel this one will get me likes, this one will get me a following, this one. And so all you think about is posting a naked woman, all you think, because that is what maybe will attract the eyes of many of the young people. But I feel collectively as society, but also most importantly as the young people and young generation, we are the hope of this country. And we are not only the leaders of tomorrow, but also the leaders of today. So what we see today and keep quiet, chances are 100% the same is going to be of effect to our children. You think today it is okay? Tomorrow is not very far. Tomorrow I'm going to have children, and my children could be involved in the same scandals. My children could be involved in the same scenarios that I was here saying, no, you see, this is dangerous. So taking this to ourselves, but also to our families where we come from, could be very pertinent, because if you're starting with your family, then you have a change, you have a reason, you have a cause to take on. And besides, you don't have data, these are people that know you, these are people who believe in you. So it attracts attention that if I tell you, you see, daddy, now this one is not done like this, but this way, And then let's not lose hope in God. Let's not lose hope in God and be drawn to the earthly desires that I need to ride this car in the shortest time. As soon as I finish campus, this should be my car, this should be my shoe, I should be sleeping in these apartments. Perhaps I should actually have my own. And so you will do everything that it takes. You will find those people running on each and every political campaign. Those are the people that will actually even be swindling the little money that is there. And that is why that the service delivery will be affected, because that money is supposed to construct a road deep down in Chabjimbi, in my village where I come from, will be taken to Kayunga for an election, because without money, they will not vote for you. So let's avoid bad practices and tendencies and dishonest views. Be honest to ourselves, be honest to each other. Every day, talk about corruption. Talk about corruption on your statuses. I want to recommend, there is a certain man called Tudiachira. Tudiachira is a climate activist, but each and every time on his status, it is climate, it is polythene bags, it is environment, it is each and every status, Twitter, each and everything. And so to me, when something comes to my mind in terms of environment or climate, who do I think of? Mr. Turiachira, because his statuses. You might think people are not reading, but people actually be reading. You might think people are not interested in such content. Even still, if you're to make memes in regards to corruption. Let them, put that picture outside. If there are the memes that interest us, let the memes and the humor be in terms of corruption, that it attracts attention.
Thank you so much, Treslin. In relation to what Treslin has been saying, Shamim, how can we use social media to fight this monster corruption in just a minute?
Yeah, like Kreslin has just said, see, is now digital. Hmm? I see it's on TikTok. I see many youths. A few are on Twitter. Treslin, it's only the ones who are educated that are on Twitter. I see many youths are on TikTok, WhatsApp, which other social media? But it's TikTok now that is trending. Yeah. We can start making, should I call them like videos, short video clips, yeah, on corruption. On corruption, yeah. And Ivan, I subscribe to, it's only that we are, time has gone, yeah. But I subscribe to the School of Thought of Transparency, International Youth and Corruption toolkit, where they give various ways on how we can curb corruption, amongst which they tell us we can even use sports. Yes. We've seen companies coming up to fight against corruption using a run against corruption. We as youth can as well do that. We run against corruption.
Thank you so much, Shamim. Because of time, we'll be ending it there. You've been a great panel. I thank you so much for being part of the show. You can continue the conversation going. We are streaming live on YouTube. Be part of this conversation and be informed that this show will be repeating tomorrow at 10:15. So make sure that you able to listen in. My name is Ivan Tumukunda, and today we were talking about the role of youth in the fight against corruption. I hope you have been able to learn a thing or two. I thank you so much for listening in, and make sure that you catch us next week. Thank you so much.
At UBC Radio, all our radio network across the country is committed to inform, entertain, educate, and guide for national transformation.
Our own radio, UBC, should set its own example. Leka bano abatafa ku bantu baffe bagumaza ndowooza muganda kito kugumaza to divert people. Let our own UBC bring programs to educate the people so that abagala kugumaza babeereyo bagumaza naye naffe they can advise, guide. And people in time will judge the one who is their friend and who is just using them.
Tune into UBC radios for credible socio-economic programs. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
At UBC Radio, we bring you Uganda's latest news and information. Coming next.
News Watch never stops. All news now. Who knows what's next? But we'll be there. News on UBC Radio.
It's just 1 minute past 5 p.m. Good evening, and thank you so much for joining us here on UBC Radio. I'm Fahim Muyingo, and this is UBC News. Coming up in our top stories, new law gives BOU power to punish mobile money companies. UJA President Rukundo wins case filed by Luo faction, and in foreign news, heatwave prompts alerts in 16 Italian cities, with 7 people have been killed by heavy floods in South Korea. The news in detail. The Bank of Uganda has warned of strong penalties in new regulatory measures against telecommunications and financial service companies that violate competition and pricing rules. In the draft Fair Competition Law, the industry regulator says unfair competition practices are satisfying the growth of digital cash economy, with some big companies teaming up to frustrate new and upcoming ones. So far, the Bank of Uganda has licensed 26 financial technology companies, including fintechs, with the majority of them coming up over the last 3 years since the implementation of the National Payment Act began, placing digital transactions like mobile money under the control of Bank of Uganda. This is aimed at enhancing financial inclusion by enabling faster spread of formal financial systems and also lead better pricing and services through competition. However, Mike Aum, BOU Director National Payments, says there are large companies that have formed a cartel to deny new and smaller ones easy access to the market since they control most of the infrastructure and other advantages. He says when the law comes into place, it will bite with heavy penalties. He told a forum for bankers, telecoms, and fintechs on new trends and challenges in the digital payments and collections business that while the government had tried to make transactions cheaper, there are many challenges affecting the efforts. He says the two top fintechs, MTN and Airtel, admit keeping mobile money withdrawal charges high to ensure the money does not leave the system, hence encouraging digital transactions. The position has been supported by government, which slapped a 0.5% tax on withdrawal charges 5 years ago. Dr. Amina Zawidi, the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of ICT and National Guidance, said it's important to take a hard stance if the country is to achieve a cashless economy status. She gave an example of when she rejected pressure to pay over 1,000 people who had been contacted to collect data on Ugandans at the parish development model. According to her, she gave them a condition that they either submit mobile money or bank accounts details, and it was not until this was done that she released the payment. She, however, urged service providers to offer services with the financial status of the majority of Ugandans in mind, especially the cost of gadgets. BOU's Mike Oumu is sure that when the establishment of a national switch system, now at the bidding stage, will go a long way in bringing the cost down because the centralized switching system will be controlled by the Bank of Uganda. And then from that story, the High Court in Kampala has dismissed the case filed by 5 journalists, including Abubakar Boa, Zambali Blasio Mukasa against Uganda Journalists Association UJA President Mathias Rukundo and Secretary General Emmanuel Chirunda, challenging the planned general election that was scheduled for February 25, 2023. The case was dismissed by Justice Musa Sekana, who ordered Boa Zambali and 3 others to pay costs to Rukundo and his group. In his ruling sent to the parties via email on Friday, Justice Sekana reasoned that Lubowa and his group sued UJA, its President Rukundo and Secretary General Emmanuel Chirunda using a wrong procedure. The judge explained that the judicial review rules under which Lubowa and his team filed the case against UJA and Rukunda and his team only applies to public bodies. According to Justice Sekana, UJA is not a public body and does not derive their powers from any written law apart from the incorporation under the Companies Act. The judge also said that Lubowa and his team erroneously obtained a temporary injunction, stopping Rukundo and his team from conducting their affairs or electing office bearers in accordance with their constitution, and as such, they should compensate them. Lubowa and his colleagues took UJA, its president and the general secretary, to court, accusing them of barring them from standing for elective position in UJA. They had contended that there was a conflict of interest and bias on the side of the organizers of the election, and since both of them were candidates aspiring to retain the position of president and general secretary. According to Lubowa and his colleagues, this was illegal since it depicts a conflict of interest on the side of 2 UJA leaders. Still in our news, the Uganda Revenue Authority URA has embarked on a campaign to create awareness of the use of electronic receipts, dubbed the Electronic Fiscal Receipting and Invoicing Solution, EFRIS, in the Acholi and Nangwa sub-regions. The EFRIS is an initiative under the Domestic Revenue Mobilization Program, whose aim is to address the tax administration challenges relating to business transactions and the issuance of receipts. On Friday, URA engaged the business community and the public at Gulu Main Market to create awareness on the benefits of the system and how it can prevent fraud and forgeries among taxpayers to avoid financial losses. They also sensitized the business community on how consumers can easily retrieve the same receipts in case it has been lost, as the record remains with the seller. URA says several taxpayers who embraced the system, dubbed Parisiti Yange, were awarded prizes for their loyalty. The prizes included a brand new Bajaj motorcycle, tablets, and smartphones, among others. The winners included Gulu-based businessman Ambrose Omara, who won a motorcycle, Valentine Zerabamzale, who walked away with a laptop, and policewoman Chirotich Veni, who won a tablet phone, along with Charles Odong and Calvin, who walked away with smartphones. Catherine Ayuba, the head of URA at Gulu Station, who awarded the winners, said that the campaign will be conducted nationwide until September this year to woo taxpayers to embrace EFRIS because it's convenient secure, and safe for business transactions, and making it easy for URA to assess taxes. Heritage Veni, who won the Samsung tablet phone, urged people to embrace the e-receipt services, saying it is convenient. She hopes to use the gadget to support her studies at the university. Now in foreign news, red alerts have been issued for 15 cities across Italy as extreme heat continues to affect Southern Europe. The alerts, which indicate risks even for healthy people, apply to tourist hotspots including Rome, Florence, and Bulgaria for the coming days. More high temperatures are expected in Europe next week as another heatwave approaches. The European Space Agency ESA says Italy, Spain, France, Germany, and Poland may see extreme conditions. The ESA monitors and sea temperature via its statelets. Periods of intense heat occur within nature and weather patterns because globally they are becoming more frequent and more intense and are lasting longer due to global warming. 7 people have died and thousands have been forced to evacuate their homes due to flooding in South Korea. A third day of torrential rain has caused landslides, power cuts, and damage to infrastructure across the country. Early on Saturday, officials say that water had overtopped a dam in the central north Gyeongbuk province. Prime Minister Han Duck-soo has asked the military to assist with rescue efforts. As well, he has also confirmed the death of 3 people who are currently missing and several others who are reported injured, with over number of casualties and expected to rise. Thousands of people have been affected by the evacuation orders issued by various local governments. The Yonhap News Agency reported that some 6,400 residents were evacuated after the Gusan Dam began to overflow at around 6:30 local time. Now, before ending our news, let's have a quick recap of our top stories. New law gives Bank of Uganda power to punish mobile money companies. Juja President Rukundo wins case filed by Abubakar War faction, and in foreign news, heatwave prompts alerts in 16 Italian cities, while 7 people have been killed by heavy floods in South Korea. I'm Fahim Muyinga for UBC News. It's been a pleasure to have you tuned in. Thank you so much. Good afternoon.
This is UBC Radio.
This is UBC Radio. Tune in for news.
At UBC Radio, we bring you Uganda's latest news and information.
Focus on Parliament.
What we need to do, the Prime Minister must give us the position before we finalize with the budgeting process.
Enjoy sports. The environment. Politics.
The mission we have is socio-economic transformation.
Health. Entertainment. Updates in education. On the farm. Keep tuned into UBC Radio, inspiring Uganda.
We are not a joke, like seriously. This is UBC Radio and you are listening to the Flavor Unit show right now.
Like this.
This is UBC Radio, 98 FM, inspiring Uganda.
Like a record spin, 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 yeah. Spin, 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 yeah. Spin, 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 yeah. I don't want no CD, no MP3. Don't want no love to come download me. So fed up with technology. Computer loving is not for me. Let's take it old school like 83. Put me on the table like a record spin me. I wanna feel you need a baby. Scratch it, scratch it, scratch it, scratch it, scratch it for me. Like a record spin, 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 spin me, yeah. Love my DJ spin, 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 spin me, yeah. Love the way you play spin, spin, spin me, yeah. Yeah. Like a record spin, 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 spin me, yeah. Love my DJ spin, 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 spin me, yeah. Love the way you play spin, spin, spin me, yeah. Put me on wax, oh yeah, I want that. that. And then you press me and I press back. Love when you set me all in your rag. I know that I'm at the top of your stack. And you can pitch it if you wanna go slower. And you can mix it cause you got the power. Just when you thought it was gonna end, you will come again. Yeah. Spin, 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 spin me, yeah. Yo, my DJ spin, 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 spin me, yeah. Love the way you play, spin, spin, spin me, yeah. Like a record, spin, 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 spin me, yeah. Yo, my DJ spin, 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 spin me, yeah. Love the way you play, spin, spin, spin me, yeah. Twist it, turn me like crazy. Winding on you, can't stop this no way.